You know that feeling, right? The house is finally quiet, the lights are off, and the second your head hits that pillow, bam! Your brain decides it's the perfect time to throw a massive party full of worries, to-do lists, and that one super awkward thing you said 10 years ago. It is so frustrating, it's exhausting, and it's something almost all of us go through. So what is actually going on in there?
Okay, let's really get into this, because I promise you it's not just you, and it is definitely not random. There are some very specific, very real psychological and biological reasons that your brain's volume knob seems to crank all the way to 11 the moment you try to shut down for the night. And honestly, understanding them is the first step to finally getting some quiet.
Does that sound familiar? If I don't sleep now, I'm going to be useless tomorrow. Yeah, that's what psychologists call a racing thought. It feels so urgent, so true in the moment, and it almost always leads to a whole spiral of other anxious thoughts that make sleep feel completely impossible.
To really get what's happening, you have to think of it like this. Your brain is running its own private midnight marathon. Just as the world around you gets quiet, your brain decides to lace up its running shoes and revisit every single detail of your day, your past, and what you're worried about in the future.
So what you've got here is basically a perfect storm. See, during the day, your brain is busy dealing with everything coming at it. Sights, sounds, conversations, tasks. But at night, all those distractions disappear, so your internal world suddenly seems way louder. At the same time, a part of your brain called the default mode network, which is basically your mind-wandering network, kicks into high gear. And the real kicker? The harder you try to shut it all down, the louder it gets.
Now, this mental marathon isn't just random chaos. It often builds into a very specific, very sticky habit that keeps us wide awake. It actually has a name, and it's a huge piece of this puzzle: rumination.
So what is rumination? Think of it like a mental broken record. Your brain gets stuck on a loop. You're not just thinking about a problem, you are replaying the feeling of the problem over and over and over. You're completely focused on the distress itself, asking, why do I feel so bad, instead of, okay, what can I do about this?
And this difference right here, it is everything. Rumination is passive, it's dwelling. It keeps you stuck right where you are, swimming in feelings about the past. Problem solving, on the other hand, is active. It's about moving forward. And at 2 in the morning, our brains are so much more likely to fall into that rumination trap.
So you might be thinking, okay, why can't I just, stop? Why can't we just tell our brains to shut up? Well, there's a really famous psychology concept that explains this perfectly. It's called the white bear problem, and it shows exactly why telling someone to just stop thinking about it is maybe the worst advice ever. Seriously, give it a shot right now. For the next 10 seconds, whatever you do, do not think about a white bear. What happened? You thought about a white bear, didn't you? See, the moment you tell your brain not to do something, one part of your brain has to constantly check in to see if you're doing it, which of course just brings the white bear right to the front of your mind. It's a total paradox, and it's exactly what happens when you try to wrestle your worries into submission at night.
But here's the thing. This isn't just a psychological game. It's not all in your head. Or well, it is, but it's not just about your thoughts. There are some powerful biological forces at play, all driven by your body's own internal stress clock.
Okay, let me introduce you to a key player in this whole drama, a hormone called cortisol. We call it the stress hormone, but it's also what helps us wake up. So normally, your cortisol levels are at their lowest point in the middle of the night, and then they start to rise naturally around 2 or 3 a.m. to get your body ready to wake up in a few hours.
But here's the problem. Think of your body's capacity for stress like a cup. If you've had a really stressful day, that cup is already almost full by the time you go to bed. So when that completely natural 3 a.m. rise in cortisol happens, your cup overflows. And that surge is what hits the panic button on your fight or flight system, jolting you awake with a racing heart and a mind that's suddenly screaming.
And if that wasn't enough, there's another biological culprit lurking in the dark. Recent research is showing that our brain's fear and emotion center, a little part called the amygdala, literally gets more active when it starts.
So get this. Scientists put people in brain scanners and found that when they were in almost total darkness, their amygdala activity was way higher than when they were just in dim light. What this means is that the physical absence of light can actually amplify your brain's fear responses. It's why a small worry can feel like a terrifying world-ending catastrophe at 3 a.m.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got a mind that's hardwired to wander and ruminate, and a body that's primed for a stress alarm in the middle of the night. Fighting it clearly doesn't work, so what do? Well,
The solution isn't to fight harder, it's to try a completely different strategy.
This is where we get into this really powerful idea called cognitive diffusion. The whole point is to stop wrestling with your thoughts and instead learn to step back and just observe them. The goal is to create a little bit of space between you and your thoughts, so you can see them for what they are, just mental events. They're not facts, they're not commands, they're just thoughts passing by.
And one of the absolute best ways to practice this is an exercise called Leaves on a Stream. It's so simple. You just close your eyes and imagine you're sitting next to a gentle stream. And as each thought pops into your head, whether it's stressful, happy, random, whatever, you just gently place it on a leaf and watch it float on by, down the stream and out of sight. You don't fight it, you don't judge it, you just let it go.
All right, so now that we have that core idea down, let's get even more practical. Let's talk about a few more simple techniques you can use right in that moment to change your relationship with that noisy night brain.
Now, this first one sounds almost too simple, but trust me, it's a game changer. When a worry pops into your head, instead of getting angry or trying to shove it away, just gently and maybe even a little humorously acknowledge it. Ah, thanks, brain. Noted. That small act of just acknowledging it can completely take the power away from the thought. You're not fighting it, so it has nothing to fight against. Okay, this next one is a tiny language trick, but the power here is just incredible. Instead of thinking, I am a failure, I want you to rephrase it as, I'm having the thought that I am a failure. Can you feel that shift? All of a sudden, the thought isn't you, it's just a thing that's happening to you, like a passing cloud. That simple shift creates so much distance and perspective. So look, here's the big takeaway from all of this. The goal is never going to be a completely silent, empty mind. That's not how brains work. Our brains are thought-generating machines. That's their job. So the goal isn't to turn the machine off. The goal is to learn how to not get your sleeves caught in the gears, to see the thoughts, to acknowledge them, and to let them pass on by without letting them run your life.
You know, when you really step back, it's kind of wild. We're all walking around with this ancient biology, this cortisol clock, this fear center in the dark that was built for a very, very different world. And in our modern, always-on, 24/7 society, learning how to manage our own internal world isn't just a nice-to-have skill, it's absolutely essential. So the real question for all of us is, how do we build little pockets of quiet for a brain that was just never designed for this much noise?